Bernie told me something, I believed it because he never lied to me. He told me that when he got Oceans, Steve called the producers to try to get his role and even wanted to take less.
You know, Steve at one point was, uber successful, and then Bernie started to, because he didn't ever think he would get the opportunity he got. But once he did, America loved him, like we all kind of knew they would. And he decided to go a different way.
And then stole everything Mark Curry had. Now Steve got a sitcom where he the principal, and he wear a
Seven well-known black comedians have come forward with shocking claims about Steve Harvey's rise to the spotlight, and it's anything but clean. According to Mark Curry, Steve didn't just take inspiration from others, he allegedly lifted jokes that weren't his. Several comics now insist that Steve built his career by using their material and stepping on anyone who stood in his way. This might be the truth behind the smiling face America sees hosting game shows today. In the early 1990s, both Mark and Steve were hustling through the same comedy clubs, trying to break through an industry that barely opened doors for black performers. While they were all trying to climb from the bottom, some now believe Steve wasn't above borrowing what didn't belong to him just to get ahead.
Chance. I'm Mr. Hightower, the new music teacher. I'm here to see the show.
Mr. Cooper, coach, teacher, janitor, you're a real triple threat.
Why are you on my material?
Right.
What's that about? And then, people want to jump up. Oh, he didn't know, he didn't steal your... So yes.
Mark Curry was actually the first one to break through, securing his own sitcom on ABC called Hanging with Mr. Cooper in 1992, a full 4 years before the Steve Harvey Show ever hit television. The series became a major success, running for 5 seasons and turning Curry into a recognizable name as he played a retired NBA player navigating life as a high school coach while trying to stay cool with his students. Curry says that at the time, he and Steve Harvey shared a friendship, but that bond didn't last long once fame entered the picture.
Comedy Jam 25. It's good to see so many funny people together in one room, all wondering the same thing. Is Cat Williams gonna show up? I'm nervous as hell right now.
Bernie told me something, I believed it because he never lied to me. He told me that when he got Oceans, Steve called the producers to try to get his role and even wanted to take less money.
Steve at one point was, uber successful, and then Bernie started to, because he didn't ever think he would get the opportunity he got. But once he did, America loved him, like we all kind of knew they would. And he decided to go a different way.
The same Steve that went to go watch Mark Curry do his whole sitcom.
Curry recalls how he and Steve used to have deep conversations about breaking into comedy as black men when doors were barely open. He claims he even shared the concept for his show, a funny guy working at a school, juggling discipline and humor while connecting with students on a real level. And according to Curry, this wasn't just a casual chat. They actually discussed character ideas, plot themes, and how to make a school setting feel authentic and entertaining. Then in 1996, The Steve Harvey Show debuted, and the setup looked almost identical. Another comedian in a school environment, guiding kids with jokes mixed with life lessons. Both main characters were former athletes who became school staff. Both worked their way into vice principal roles. Both dealt with troubled teens in similar ways. Even the types of episodes and overall tone felt eerily familiar.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. You know what I mean? It was like the idea of the joke that he was even talking about.
The same Steve that went to go watch Mark Curry do his whole sitcom and then stole everything Mark Curry had. Now Steve got a sitcom where he the principal and he wear a suit.
You don't do your material around a lot of comedians. That's like stealing in front of the police.
We've been friends for 30 years, man.
Oh, wow.
30 years. That's big, man. That's crazy. You know how people say that about marriage? That's a long time in Hollywood to be friends with.
Curry says he felt betrayed, but he kept his mouth shut because speaking out back then could destroy a career, especially when it involved another black entertainer. Staying silent was the safest move. In those days, black actors and comedians were pressured to avoid public conflict and not expose each other. So while Steve's series gained success and his own career slowed down, Curry held in his frustration and watched from afar.
That I was just a no-name comedian and that he could take this joke and nobody would know.
Right.
The issue was that I had already done this particular joke on BET's Comic View twice.
Bernie, felt like he didn't want to do it anymore. He was on his own path, and Steve. So, you know, nothing like that ever happens or doesn't happen for a reason. So I was disappointed. But
just saying, I can't let these dudes lie. Cedric sitting here telling you why he ain't a movie star. He over here look like a walrus. You didn't say nothing. This is like Steve Harvey telling people he used to be homeless. That's my story. That's not his story. Steve Harvey wasn't never homeless. When Mark Curry was touring with him 25 years ago, he was making $3,000 a show in cash and doing 5 shows a week.
Bernie is one of those people, like certain other people in my life, that I knew very well. Stretch told me something, I will believe it because he never lied to me. Bernie told me something, I believed it because he never lied to me.
Then in 2009...
Steve Harvey has always branded himself like his comedy royalty, the man who clawed his way to the top fair and square. But the deeper you look, the more you realize that success didn't come from originality, it came from taking what wasn't his. This whole scandal didn't start yesterday. It goes back decades. Mark Curry, the star of Haggin' with Mr. Cooper, has been saying for years that Steve copied his style, his jokes, even his show concept. And in 2019, when Curry spoke out on the Mike and Donnie show, he didn't sugarcoat anything. He outright said Steve went on TV using stories from his real life like they were the result of Harvey's own grind. When Curry called him out face-to-face at Definite Comedy Jam's 25th celebration, Steve acted blind, like he had no idea what Curry was talking about. Then 2024 hit, and Cat Williams dragged these buried accusations right back into the light. After Cat's viral Club Shay Shay interview, the internet became a crime scene. Fans started comparing episodes, the character types, even identical jokes, and the similarities were straight up disturbing. It wasn't inspiration. It looked like a copy and paste hustle, and Harvey stayed dead silent, hoping the flames would die out while he cashed his checks. But the real betrayal? That came from inside the Kings of Comedy. While the world was laughing and cheering for Steve and his fellow stars, Bernie Mac, the heart and soul of the tour, was realizing something wicked was going on behind his back. Bernie was the fan favorite. He was raw, fearless, unforgettable. And Steve hated it. Multiple insiders say Harvey was working the backstage politics, trying to get Bernie pushed out so he could shine as the King of Kings. Bernie confirmed it in his 2003 GQ interview. Steve Harvey tried to get me fired. That wasn't comedy beef. That was a knife in the back. The tension blew the Kings of Comedy apart, and the second tour never happened because they couldn't even breathe the same air anymore. Bernie exploded in Hollywood afterward, the Bernie Mac show, blockbuster movies, but he took that betrayal to the grave. They never made peace. And Steve never owned what he did. Just when people thought Steve couldn't look worse, Cat Williams nuked his reputation in January 2024. He called Harvey out as a fraud, a man who built his career stealing jokes, stealing credit, stealing opportunities. Cat said Steve and Cedric were like a tag team, working together, acting like protectors of comedy while snatching material from anyone they saw rising. And Cat wasn't alone. Comedians like Godfrey stepped in with their own receipts. He said Steve used to lurk in the back of comedy clubs, watching rising talents crush the room, then turning around and performing those same jokes on major stages. Young comics were warned. If Steve Harvey is in the room, do not do your best material. He will take it, and you can't fight him. That right there tells you everything about Harvey's rise. Talent didn't boost him, power did. And anyone who spoke up got blacklisted. D.L. Hughley tried to act neutral, avoiding saying anything too bold. But even he admitted Bernie and Steve's beef was real enough to kill the entire Kings of Comedy empire. D.L. didn't call Cat a liar. He didn't defend Steve's honor. He just danced around it, because he knows how the industry works. Then Cedric jumped in, defending Steve like his reputation was chained to Harvey's downfall. Fans didn't buy that for a second. Cedric himself has a history of joke-stealing accusations. So when he rushed to protect Steve, it felt less like loyalty and more like panic. The final blow? Ed Lover, a respected radio legend, confirmed Bernie's story with zero hesitation. He said Bernie came to him years ago and told him everything Steve had done behind closed doors. Bernie didn't spread rumors. He spoke raw truth even when it hurt him. That was Bernie Mac's character. Honest to the end. Fast forward to 2025. Steve Harvey has it all. The shows, the fame, the money, the public image of a lovable family man. But Kat's interview cracked that mask in half. Internet sleuths dug up old clips, exposing how many routines and plot lines looked like they came straight from Curry and other comedians pushed out of the spotlight. When pressured to respond, Steve didn't come with facts. He came with threats. At InvestFest 2020, he mocked Cat Williams and threatened to shoot the perm off his head. No explanation. No accountability. Just ego and violence, proving everything his critics already believed. Then, once the heat got too high, Steve suddenly tried to play the humble victim. He hopped on the pivot talking about, "I shouldn't have talked like that. I even apologized to Cat." But everyone saw right through it. That wasn't remorse, it was damage control. Because Steve still refuses to address the real accusations. Why does his sitcom mirror Mark Curry's concept? Why do multiple comedians have identical material? Why did Bernie Mac expose him before he died? He keeps crying jealousy, but when too many voices tell the same story from different rooms, that's not jealousy, that's truth. And now the world is finally waking up to the possibility that Steve Harvey didn't rise. He climbed over every comedian who got in his way. Is Steve Harvey a misunderstood legend? Or has the comedy world finally exposed his real legacy? Comment below with your thoughts. Smash that like button, subscribe so you never miss another Hollywood Expose. And buckle up, because we're just getting started.